In part 1 of our complete story recap of The Last of Us, we took a look at some important events that work as the game's backstory, before moving on to the early sections of Joel and Ellie's journey, leaving off when Tess dies, while Joel and Ellie make their escape from the Capitol building. In part 2 of this 3-part feature, we're going to continue following Joel and Ellie's trek across the continent, and their meetings with several new characters. Even after they make their narrow escape from Boston's Capitol building, the military continues to pursue Joel and Ellie. But even after an intense sequence in the dark, abandoned subway tunnels of the city, the two of them manage to shake their pursuers, finally making it to relative safety. Ellie tries to talk to Joel about Tess, to give him some words of comfort, but Joel cuts her off. Tess is the last thing he wants to talk about right now, and he tells that to Ellie in very clear words. He tells Ellie that if they're actually going to do this, if Joel is actually going to risk his own life every second of every day just so that he can get Ellie to the Fireflies, then his word is the law. Whatever he says goes. So, how exactly is Joel going to pull this off? As we've learned by this point, Joel's brother Tommy used to run with the Fireflies in the earlier days of the outbreak, and even though he doesn't fight with them anymore, Joel figures if he can get Ellie to Tommy, he can in turn get her to the Fireflies. But Tommy is a long ways away, and getting to him is not going to be easy. Joel tells Ellie that he knows a man named Bill who lives in an overrun town nearby. Bill, he tells her, owes him some favors, and Joel wants to cash in on those favors for a car, which Bill might have access to, so that he and Ellie can get across the continent a bit more easily. Getting to Bill is easier said than done though. The world has turned into an ugly place in the last 20 years, and people have had to become uglier still to have any shot at surviving. But Bill? Well, Bill takes things a little too far. He considers a certain section of the town Joel and Ellie enter to be his own, and he protects it fiercely. He's set deadly, explosive booby traps wherever he can, and he doesn't react well to people entering his territory. And he's a very impatient and paranoid man, a colorful character to say the least. Joel and Ellie make their way through the town, getting past several of Bill's booby traps and mistakenly triggering a few of them. Soon, however, the situation turns dire, as they end up outnumbered and overwhelmed by large numbers of both runners and clickers. Joel and Ellie fight desperately, and just as things start looking hopeless, they're rescued by Bill, as you may have guessed. The three of them manage to escape by the skin of their teeth, scrambling into one of Bill's safe houses. But Bill's not very happy. He clearly doesn't want the hassle of having Joel and Ellie, or anyone else for that matter, around him. And he also doesn't think the favors he owes Joel are worth as much as the car. After a heated discussion between the two of them, and Ellie, Joel manages to calm Bill down and convinces him to help them out. Bill, however, tells him that he doesn't have a car, but if Joel and Ellie can help him scrounge up some parts that he needs, he can fix one up for them, at which point he would no longer owe Joel anything. So, the three of them set about looking for requisite parts, and while doing so, they encounter several dangers. They manage to get past countless infected, narrowly escaping several close calls. Not everything goes perfectly, of course, but eventually, with Bill's help, Joel and Ellie manage to get their hands on a car. At this point, Joel tells Bill that they're square, and then promptly drives away with Ellie. Soon enough, however, things go terribly wrong. One of the most common themes that you see in post-apocalyptic stories is the inherent tendency of humans to act like animals, and that's something we see quite a bit in The Last of Us as well. The infected might be dangerous, but there are ragtag groups of bandits and thugs out in the overgrown urban jungles and the reminders of civilization, and they can be just as dangerous, if not more. Joel and Ellie's drive across the country is cut short quite abruptly when a man stumbles onto the road in front of their car, clearly hurt and begging for them to stop and help. But Joel has seen and done a lot of things to become the survivor that he is now, and this little show the supposedly injured man puts on doesn't even come close to fooling him. He knows that it's a trap, and he's not going to stop the car no matter what. Within seconds, though, things escalate rapidly. A bus crashes into Joel and Ellie's car, forcing them to ditch, and the two of them are promptly swarmed by an entire group of bandits who seem to be known as the Hunters. The Hunters are a vicious, ruthless, and extremely hostile group of survivors living in and around Pittsburgh, and they are extremely territorial in nature. They prey on anyone who might wander into their territory. Such people are known as tourists among the Hunters, and loot them for food, clothes, and supplies among other things. After Joel and Ellie are ambushed, a group of the hunters closes in on them, outnumbering them heavily. But after a scrappy, ugly fight, the two of them manage to get past or kill the bandits. They're far from safe though. They are, after all, still in Pittsburgh, and they have to stay on their toes while they're still in the hunters' territory. The next portion of The Last of Us sees Joel and Ellie cutting through the city while trying to stay one step ahead of the hunters, and these moments also prove to be quite important for the thing that is essentially the heart of the story, the relationship between Joel and Ellie. Little by little, masterfully written dialogue and wonderfully directed cutscenes portray the growing bond between Joel and Ellie in an understated and extremely effective way. And where there was once unfamiliarity and a natural mistrust between the two of them, there is now a growing trust and signs of them becoming a really great team. Eventually, Joel and Ellie come across something they didn't expect to find, least of all here: friendly faces. A young man named Henry and his little brother, Sam. Sam and Henry, as it turns out, are part of a larger group of survivors, or at least they used to be. After their quarantine zone was abandoned by the military, their group left, and eventually wandered into Pittsburgh looking for supplies. Unaware of the presence of the hunters, they were quickly ambushed, at which point Henry and Sam got separated from their group. They have been hiding out in the city for a few days now, trying not to get caught by the hunters. But with the help of Joel and Ellie, Henry thinks he knows how to leave Pittsburgh. He tells Joel that he's supposed to meet up with his group outside the city, and that they intend to look for the Fireflies out in the west, which is quite convenient for Joel and Ellie, as you might imagine. Henry tells them that his group is supposed to be waiting for them at the radio tower outside the city, and he knows just how to get there. He tells them that the hunters guard a large gate that blocks the only viable exit from the city, but that when their guard shift changes during the nighttime, the four of them should be able to slip by unnoticed. Seeing as they don't have a lot of other options on their hands, Joel agrees to help, but as always, things don't really go as planned. Joel, Ellie, Henry, and Sam manage to cross the gate that leads to the outside of the city, but they're unable to do so without attracting attention. As they get past the gate, the hunters give chase in an armored vehicle mounted with a machine gun, and as the hunters close in on them, Henry and Sam abandon Joel and Ellie, seeing a short window of opportunity to escape and taking it. Cornered and defenseless, Joel and Ellie run for it with the hunters' armored Humvee in pursuit until they eventually chase them to the edge of a broken bridge. Ellie tells Joel that they're gonna have to jump for it, off the bridge and into the rushing river below, in spite of the fact that she doesn't know how to swim. Seeing no other option, Joel and Ellie jump. As they hit the water, Joel grabs hold of Ellie, trying to keep her afloat as the strong current carries them away from the city. But within seconds, Joel's head slams into a boulder in the water and he loses consciousness. For once, however, the worst doesn't happen. Joel is woken up by Ellie a short while later, and when he comes to, he sees that they're on a beach, with the broken bridge that they jumped off in Pittsburgh still visible some distance away. As it turns out, they're not alone. Sam and Henry are there with them, but Joel is in no mood to trust them again. Angered by the fact that Henry abandoned him and Ellie at the first chance he got, Joel pulls a gun on Henry. Ellie, however, tells him that it was the two brothers who pulled them out of the river, and that if it weren't for Henry, they probably would have drowned. Henry tells Joel that the only things he was thinking of was his brother's life, and keeping Sam safe was the most important thing to him. He tells Joel that if he would have been in his position, he would have run as well. And he's right, of course. Joel lowers his gun, seeing the logic in Henry's argument, and the four of them decide to continue their trek to the radio tower. While looking for a way off the beach, they find an entrance that leads into a network of sewers and underground tunnels. The four of them enter the sewers together, not knowing the tribulations that await. The sewers, as you may have guessed, are crawling with the infected. To begin with, Joel and the others are able to sneak past large numbers of them as they discover the remnants of an old survivor camp in the dingy and grimy surroundings. Soon, however, Joel unwittingly triggers a jerry-rigged door, which separates their group of four into two groups of two, with exactly the wrong pairing. Joel and Sam stand on one side of the door, while Ellie and Henry stand on the other. Just as the two pairs start looking for a way to get the door open, a group of clickers gets attracted by the commotion. The two pairs are forced to go in different directions and fend for themselves, trusting that they'd be able to take care of themselves and each other. Joel and Sam together make their way past a number of infected, and eventually they're reunited with Ellie and Henry. In a final, tense face-off against an entire swarm of the infected bearing down on them. Ellie and Sam are able to find a way out of the sewers as Joel and Henry hold off the oncoming monsters. And while a well-earned moment of respite would have been very welcome for all four of them, that just isn't the world they live in. As Joel and the others make their way out of the sewers and continue their journey to the radio towers, they're ambushed once again by another group of the hunters. This time, though, they're boxed in, and the odds definitely don't look to be in their favor. The four of them are essentially pinned down, sticking behind cover at one end of the street, while a very well-placed sniper takes shots at them from a nest in a house at the other end. Once again, they're forced to think fast and act even faster. As Ellie, Henry, and Sam hunker down behind cover and distract the sniper, Joel moves in toward the nest from the flanks. Predictably enough, a number of other hunters lie in between them, and in a thrilling set-piece section, the game tasks the players with making their way to the sniper's nest. Eventually, after fighting or sneaking his way past the hunters he comes across, Joel manages to make it to the other end of the street, and after a brief scuffle, he makes quick work of the sniper. With the sniper rifle in hand, Joel proceeds to put all the hunters in the area in his crosshairs, and with deadly precision, he takes them all out as Ellie, Sam, and Henry move forward toward him on the street. The noise, however, alerts a group of infected in the area, and while Joel is busy taking out any hunters that he can spot, a group of runners attacks Ellie, Henry, and Sam. The incident catches Joel's attention, who takes out infected just in time. Or so they all think, because this single moment goes on to have massive repercussions for all four of them, especially for brothers Sam and Henry. That night, as Sam and Ellie fall asleep, Henry and Joel reminisce about the past, talking about nothing and everything, about riding bikes and the life they once took for granted. The two share some rare moments of peace and quiet. But peace, as we soon find out, never lasts in the world of The Last of Us. The next morning, as Henry asks Ellie to wake Sam up, the three of them are treated to a shocking revelation. When they were attacked by the runners at the sniper's nest, not all of them were able to escape unscathed. Unbeknownst to all three of them, Sam had a scratch on his leg and was infected. What's worse, he turned overnight, and as Ellie tries waking him up, an infected Sam attacks her. Joel pulls out his gun, takes aim, but he's stopped from pulling the trigger. A panic-stricken Harry pulls out his own gun and points it at Joel, warning him to stay away, even as Ellie struggles to keep Sam at bay. Henry, though, pulls the trigger. But instead of shooting Joel, he shoots Sam, distraught over the loss of his brother, the one person who mattered to him more than anyone else. The one person who'd kept him going in the world all this time. Henry takes aim at Joel again. Joel freezes, hands in the air, and tells Henry to calm down, telling him that what happened was no one's fault. Henry doesn't feel the same way. "It's your fault," he keeps repeating, though whether he's saying that at Joel or to himself, even he can't say for sure. And he turns the gun and shoots himself in the head. And that's it for part 2. In part 3 of our recap of The Last of Us story, we'll continue following Joel and Ellie on their trek across post-apocalyptic America as they continue to search for the Fireflies.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.